What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Now, today on the table in front of us is, well, it's not a new knife. It is a new knife to me. This is the Kizer Escort. This is a freaking spectacular pocket knife that just sort of flew under my radar for a long time. Now, this is an older generation Kizer, 2016, 17, something like that. That's how fast the knife industry moves at this point. That something that's just a couple of years old is considered older. This is a Dirk Pinkerton design. Now, I do have two other Pinkerton designs. Well, I have one other Pinkerton design, a large and small. I've got the Artisan Proponent. Those are excellent knives. So is this. And one of the things I like most about this is that it's such a straightforward pocket knife. It's not overly fancy. It's not bizarre. It's just comfortable in hand, good materials, well made. It's just a really neat knife. And the action as I screw up the flip. Yeah, okay. That's awesome. I love when stuff like that happens. Look, the action on this thing is really very good. It is drop shut. It snaps open with authority. You can fail it. The detent is a little soft, but it doesn't fall out or anything. It just takes a little thought. It has a deep carry-ish stamped steel pocket clip. It rides a little low on the knife, but it fits in the pocket really, really well. Kizer hadn't quite figured out, at least at this point in many of their knives, hadn't quite figured out the whole titanium pocket clip thing yet, and it shows a little bit. But man, this is a really good knife. I've said before that I like very simple handle designs. This thing is an absolute joy to hold on to. It is S35VN running on bearings. It has a saber grind. It is relatively thin behind the edge. It is a nice, relatively thick chunk of S35VN. And because it's saber, it doesn't have that much distance to get thin, but they did a pretty good job. And it is very sharp. It is coated. My understanding is that this is high heat paint, not high heat paint, like Duracoat or Cerakote. It's not DLC, which means it will wear off fairly easily, likely not in my hands because I don't use knives that hard. But I'll tell you, the first thing I thought of when I got this knife, and I actually only got this about a week ago, I've been carrying it a bunch since then, was one of these. This, of course, is the Chavez Redemption Street. And these two fill a very similar space in the pocket. They are both S35VN. They are both titanium. They are both running on bearings. Okay, the Chavez is a little nicer because it's built by Riot. It's also almost, well, this is $275. This is $160. So it's $110 more. If you're interested in this knife shape, this kind of rectangular handle, very straightforward blade, although this is compound ground, but you get what I'm getting at here. These are still available, and why I ignored them for so long, I have no idea. But I'm glad I chose not to at this point, because I really like it. You know, Pinkerton, Dirk Pinkerton, isn't just an interesting knife designer. He's also a really nice guy. I met him at Blade Show, and he has got an eye for knives. He really does. It's got jimping at the back of the scales and at the front of the scales up here towards the blade. It's got some jimping on the blade, which is just enough to really lock your thumb into position. It has a really nice sharpening choil, so there's no wide spot back here at the base of the plunge grind. This is a real cutter. Again, it's not a razor blade because it is a little thicker behind the edge, but it slips through material like nobody's business. But by far, the party piece for this knife is how well it does ride in the pocket. Now, again, it is a deep carry designed clip running low on the knife. So you have a little bit of knife sticking out. I don't mind. I know I prefer deep carry, but in this particular instance, it leaves you just enough knife to really get a hold of when you're pulling it out of the pocket, which is really very nice. The blade design is simple, straightforward, and almost elegant for it. It has a fuller, which you cannot, unfortunately, There's not enough sticking out here to get in there and flick it or anything. It is deployed only by the flipper tab. But the fuller is a nice touch. It is attractive. The grind all the way along the blade is even on both sides, which is a really nice touch. Considering that they've done this black coating, it would really stand out if it wasn't. The grind is very nice. This knife is used. It belonged actually to Russell from Artisan Knives. He didn't use it very much, clearly. And in my life, it won't get that much hard use either. There's very little billboarding on the blade. It does say Kizer with their logo. It says the model number and then S35VN. Then on this side, it says Escort, and it's got the Dirk Pinkerton logo. I'm not sure that's going to appear. Oh, there it is. It is gray titanium with silver hardware, black clip, and black blade. God, I love this thing. It really does remind me of the Chavez knives in the handle style and shape. Although this is a little more, it's more rounded, and there's a little more handle, which for me is very good because it's not an enormous knife. But Dirk Pinkerton seems to really understand what it means to hold, like he gets it, what it means to hold a knife. And this knife fits into that beautifully. And the nice thing about this stamped steel clip, while it is not the most exciting thing in the world, is there are no hot spots because of it. None. It feels like a very natural part of the knife, and because of where it sits, it actually fills the palm swell really well. So, palm swell really well. Yeah, that. You know, there are a bunch of these older Kizers out there that you can still get. And I know Kizer hasn't produced a lot recently. It seems like 2018 was a giant year for Kizer. They unloaded, 20 different knife styles. They did a bunch of crazy stuff. It seems like in 19 they've backed off quite a bit. But if you're into Kizer design, and I think they make excellent pocket knives. I even have two on the table. What do I have here? I've got the Mjolnir, and I've got the Intrepid. All of these are exceptionally well-made pocket knives. The Escort, I'm not sure why it wasn't more popular. I think maybe it was a little ahead of its time. And what I mean by that is there's an ebb and flow in the way people enjoy knife design. I think this was a little simple for the kind of stuff that Kizer was putting out at the time. It didn't stand out. And that's a crying shame because it is a standout pocket knife. I love S35VN. I know it's not considered a super steel anymore, and I don't care. I think it holds the edge beautifully. I'm a little surprised that they blacked out the blade on an S35VN knife, but Dirk knows his business. If he wanted to go blackout, then that's what he did. It is running on bearings, and very smoothly on bearings. It snaps down. Listen to that. Let's do that again. It pops down. The detent is very good. I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, I can fail it, but I have to flick this thing really hard to do it. If you're looking for a good mid-size, mid-weight, titanium and S35VN pocket knife that's not going to break the bank. As I said, I saw this on Blade HQ for $160-something. Yes, I know. That's not inexpensive. But compared to, this at $275, it's pretty cheap. So it's all about where you are in the scheme of things. This is also S35VN and titanium, and this is $212 or $220, something like that. So you get all the materials, the Kizer manufacturing quality, their good S35VN, the bearings, all of it for less than $200. I don't know how many of these there are out in the world. I don't know if they're producing them anymore. I don't think so. I think this is just old stock that you can still pick up at places like Blade HQ. I would. I really would. I'm glad I did. I got this one from somebody else. But had I known, had I had a chance to get this thing in hand and really feel it, given the way that I am about my knives, what I look for, what appeals to me, this thing is all of it. And if you have enjoyed the knives on my channel and agreed mostly with what I say about the way knives fit and how they are, then I think you would really like this too. Well, let's do some specs and then we will move along. You get 1, 2, 3, 1.25, excuse me, inches of cutting surface. You get 4 inches of S35. 1, 2, 3. Oh, good Lord. 1, 2, 3.25 inches of cutting surface. You get 3.5 inches of blade. I can't math. It's been a long day. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just shy. I know it looks like more in the angle of the camera, but it really is just shy of 8 inches overall in length. It is about 1.25 inches closed. The handle is right at 1/2 inch, which is a very comfortable grip, particularly if you have larger hands. Let's do some size comparisons. I know we threw some Kizers up here, but let's see. What should we compare it against? Well, here is the Ritter Hogue, or as most people know it, this is the Benchmade Griptilian, because they are virtually the same in dimensions. As you can see, the Escort is a little shorter in the handle. There's a little tiny more cutting surface here on the Hogue, but not much. There's that for size. Let's put it up against our old friend, the oh, here we go. As you can see, this is considerably smaller, but this is smaller than everything. You know, the Rat series is an interesting knife. People generally know them, which is why I use them. I don't particularly like them very much. I have a lot more comfortable knives. I wish there was a mid-size. They've got like the traditional larger one, and then they got this little tiny one. But for size comparisons, it'd be nice to have something right in the middle. What else can we compare it to that would be fun? Well, this is the Benchmade Rift. Ooh, don't bang the knives. Now, the Rift does give you about 1/4 inch more cutting surface. They are very, very similar in size and in dimension. And based on the way that they are shaped, I think these are actually supposed to be similar use knives. They're not quite hard use, but they are harder use. The difference is this is 154 cm, which is very similar to VG10, for instance. It's a very nice steel, but it ain't S35 VN, and these two knives are very similar in price. So you choose. Oh, they're interestingly reversed too, aren't they? Gray and black and gray. Anyway, I love this knife. I wouldn't give it up for the world, but if I was going to have just one of these two, it would probably be this one just for the materials alone. I guess that's about it. I like bringing older knives. God, older. It's only 2 years old. May I make it sound like it was from the 50s or something, but it is still older in today's market. I like bringing stuff like this to the table. I like getting a hold of them, particularly when they're in such good shape. I like finding out that I was wrong. So I could have bought this many times, and I passed over it for other things I shouldn't have. This is an excellent pocket knife. And I guess I'm going to leave it there. If you're looking for an excellent pocket knife that is below $200 in good materials from a good company that is well made, as long as you can still get them, the Kizer Escort here is a good choice. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to like the video down there at the little like on your way out. It does help the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. I'd love to have you here on a regular basis. We'll see you next time.